This is Perfect Dark. We're on Xbox Series X. And yeah, this is a very interesting sort of thing to dive into. So what we're doing is we're basically playing the Perfect Dark titles. So we're going to start off with the original Perfect Dark that was brought forward onto the 360 in the arcade by 4J back in the day. And then we'll be jumping into Perfect Dark Zero afterwards to showcase both of them. So what we're getting here is actually kind of interesting. So this is a boost resolution. You know, it looks really crisp, really clean, really clear. And then we've also got auto HDR support. And yeah, it does look and feel pretty great. It's quite interesting. And if you're not familiar with Perfect Dark, it's Joanna Dark, kind of a great protagonist character. And you're going about doing missions and completing objectives along the way in order to tackle situations that you've been sent into. And it's got a bit of a, I guess you could say, sci-fi type angle to it as well. And yeah, it's pretty great. So I actually got into this, I think over the last summer. I kind of checked it out on Xbox One X because I was like, you know what, I've got some time. I want to give Perfect Dark a whirl. And yeah, I'm actually kind of blown away by it. I think this shooter is absolutely fantastic and 100% worth diving into if you've never played it before. It's really smooth, it's really fluid, it's available via Game Pass, and it's fantastic. And it is like a first-party title, which is kind of exciting too at the same time. It's also something you can play through Rare Replay in order to get those kind of, I guess you could say, bonus type achievements. So that is something to keep in mind if you want to play it that way. The sniper is so weird, but super clean and effective. So it's just like a really smooth, fairly fast-paced kind of FPS title with a bit of strategy. Is there a guy actually up there on that wall? Unbelievable. Where it's kind of linear in nature, but you do get some options for how you tackle the situations. Like, it feels like a bit of a retro game because it's from an older era, but it's cleaned up, it's really clean and clear looking. It's just quite fantastic too. It really is quite well done. And again, I definitely think worth jumping into if you've never tried it before. It's really quite great. Where did that guy go? That is very weird. But yeah, it's sort of punch, punch, punch. It's cool because, ow. Where'd that guy go? Because it's obviously like an older title, but yet it feels so fresh and so like smooth and fast-paced and action-packed that, yeah, it's really quite interesting. Let's go in here. No, door's locked. Okay. And it's still got that element of, going around, exploring, trying to figure things out, blasting foes away, and doing so in an interesting setting. Like, I mean, obviously, some of the environmental elements are fairly old looking. It's, it's not a brand new game. Oh yeah, I forgot you actually got to open that. Who is shooting at me? Oh wow, yeah, we got quite a collection of guys here. But with that, I do want to show off another level, which I think is really quite cool. I just wanted to kind of start off with this one because it's got like that cool, interesting sort of, spy thriller thing where you're cast into a situation and you need to figure out, what's going on in it. You're doing some sniping and stuff. It's rather neat. And each of the levels decently long. Like, this one's got some cool underground areas you go through. So we're gonna just switch off to another one, which is a bit more, kind of action-packed. So this is the opening level. I really like the style and the feeling of this one in regards to what you're doing and how it sort of sets the scene. I just find it rather interesting, and it's a good kickoff point, so you kind of get introduced to this character. You get an idea of things, but I wanted to show it second so that you could kind of feel the action of the agent element and then understand the kickoff point. So yeah, it's kind of what we're showing off here. So very much kind of a cyberpunk type, environment that's being set up here. You're flying in, you've got a job to do, and you get options to do it. And every level has choices, and they've got like a few different modes here, a few different options. It's really quite interesting. And again, very, very well done. It's very neat. Here we go. Any moment now. Just a cinematic getting everything kind of kicked off. There's Joanna. You know, it's very Bond-like, if that makes sense. And it's just kind of really, like, glowy in that. Like, the HDR really just sort of absolutely pops in this one, if that makes sense. Like, it's hard to really present HDR properly, but yeah, it looks really cool. No survivors. Yeah, I gotta disable this gear. I think I was supposed to do that on the roof. Anyways, doesn't matter. Pretty cool, pretty flashy game. Really one of the great FPS titles, I think. Definitely should surprise you if you've never played it before. You should have a blast with it and actually roll through it and actually just find things genuinely impressive about it. Find a sense of figuring things out exciting, because it's not something where you're going to get like lost kind of rolling through it, but you do need to kind of solve some of the objectives and the goals that you have in each level in order to do things properly, and there's different difficulty tiers too. Yeah, it's just kind of really, really interesting. I quite love this title, so that's mainly why I wanted to show off, because it's kind of cool, and I do think that eventually we'll see this character, this universe return at some point. I don't think that this is the end of Perfect Dark, but I think this is kind of just like the legacy of it before they do something wild with it again someday. Because this feels sleek and looks so cool, even considering, you know, the boost it got and just sort of the adjustments. I really do find it kind of fascinating. And yeah, you'd basically be working towards gathering something special, and then having to deal with a lady and going into like a basement section. It's a very neat sort of level. And a mature shooter, obviously, as well. Blast, blast, blast. I like that it's kind of like a zoom-in aim, like it sort of pops to people and everything. I find it quite well done. But with that, we're going to switch over to Zero, because I want to show that one off as well. This is Perfect Dark Zero. So this is like a prequel entry to Perfect Dark. It came around at the beginning of the 360. I think it was actually like a launch title for that one. So basically, once again, you know, Joanna Dark's present here. You're doing different missions, working through different goals, and it's kind of similar, but definitely a very different kind of take on the character. And yeah, kind of interesting, because it was more focused not only on, you know, the campaign and working through that with different difficulty options, but there was also this, you know, multiplayer aspect and portion to it, where I think it was like 32 players could battle it out online, which was kind of neat, and I think very different for the time as well, because this was very early 360 days, right? Definitely interesting. And I thought I'd start by just showing off some of the multiplayer in action, so you can kind of see what that was like, which is, again, very rollish and kind of intense. So there are different modes. It's not just like the bot combat. So I threw the bots on, obviously, so that I could have somebody to compete against, because I don't think there's really going to be too many players still playing this one, if any. Actually, I don't think there are any more players on this one online, but yeah, you could play it online with others, so that's kind of interesting. And once again, you know, we do have the visual kind of boost to it, so it looks really clean and crisp, and we've got auto HDR support, which does really make, again, the sort of visual style pop, because while it's clearly an upgraded version to, you know, Perfect Dark and what they did there in regards to bringing that one back, it also is like a newer version of it, right? Things have changed, they've upgraded it, but they wanted to keep it, I think, visually kind of similar. Now, I don't know if this one is quite as fondly remembered as the original Perfect Dark title, but it is an interesting thing to show that I thought I would, you know, double up on it and kind of get them both presented here. I do find the armor aspect of it a little bit fascinating, but it's also weird how it's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. The characters are a lot more casual in their presentation than the other one. It's very much more like a spy type thing, but I guess this might be kind of along the lines of an origin setup, so something to kind of keep in mind in that regard. And just kind of getting an idea of like the multiplayer portion of this one and how it's working, so you can see that just in action, because it's kind of fun, and, you know, just for the memory of the series and everything like that, to show off what the game had to offer, I think. throwing a bit of the multiplayer in is a good starting point. Die. Ooh. But I think with that, we're going to switch over and show off a little bit of the campaign. So this is just the opening area, Mission 0 that we're in. So you can see the cinematic elements, the visual style of it, and get an idea of everything like that gameplay-wise.
Mega corporations don't take kindly to intruders. Security is tight. Cameras, laser tripwires.
Oh no.
Nothing you can deal with, but I'm on hand just in case. Let's start with that spider bot up there. It's locked down the door for repairs. No time to hang about. Shoot it and get out.
Sure. Oh, this is going to be an interesting tutorial.
What is it with those? Got one.
But yeah, you can see very much how this kind of continues forward the design they did with the original, sort of upgrading that one and then doing this new one here, that they wanted to basically go a little bit further with the designs while also still being very much on par with the sort of setup. And I think it cleans up very nicely in terms of like the visuals and the quality of it. I think they did a very, very good job in that regard. Melee! Oh no! We gotta push these boxes out of the way. How exciting. Yeah, this is some true next-gen stuff. You gotta remember, like, this is, again, I think, basically at the beginning of, oh geez, the 360 era. So, I mean, for a game that old, it actually does hold up and sort of, you know, keeps looking really good. Aim from cover. Oh, wow. That's really intense, but you can see a little bit of a change in the character designs, obviously a bit more sleeker. It's an interesting narrative. I think if you've played Perfect Dark, you're probably going to want to experience like what this one has to offer. They're both interesting in their own ways and what they provide. Oh, we gotta go near the data locker. It's just kind of fun seeing the pistol style thing there. Evade data mine. Or what are they called? Data dine security. Yeah, I think if they were to redo this sort of thing down the road, they'd have to maybe do it entirely fresh, I would think. There we go, I was being stupid. Oh, this is a neat little puzzle setup.
Hit the cursor when it's over the blue blocks to knock them out. Hit a white block by mistake and it turns red. Hit it again and it knocks you back a ring. Clear all the security rings and you take control.
There we go. So a little bit more leaning into the gadgets, the puzzles, the style of play. Again, with cinematic focus, it's a neat evolution, kind of. I think it's a unique title, kind of adding the multiplayer, the single player. And mainly, yeah, I'm still awaiting a new Perfect Dark title someday. Hopefully we do actually see that at some point, because I think there's a lot of potential for this character and the series and the type of universe that's presented here with that sci-fi, cyberpunk-esque sort of situation and style. It's interesting. They do some neat things with it. And yeah, it's been a long time since this actually came out, so it's kind of, I guess you could say, surprising in general that we're still playing it all these years later. But yeah, that's Perfect Dark and Perfect Dark 0.